Right then, welcome back to Stretford, Paddock and Howson versus. Don't worry, you are getting what you came for today. But we're not starting with that. We are talking about Graham Potter. Seriously? There's a line here that I'm going to assume Joe wrote, which is, it's not the first time Radcliffe has signed a Harry Potter deal. Anyway, so what am I talking about Graham Potter for? Well, basically, there's been a leak. And the leak seems to be that Ineos / Jim Radcliffe, should they get rid of Ten Hag, have identified Graham Potter as the next Manchester United manager. Now, that's problematic in several ways because clearly they didn't learn from the Chelsea experiment and they clearly didn't learn from the Brighton experiment. And I'll explain both of those two things in a little bit more detail. So the Chelsea experiment being, Graham Potter didn't work managing a big club. The Brighton experiment demonstrates that it almost doesn't matter. If you identify managers with certain traits and your club is set up to succeed, you will be successful. Manchester United do not have that. So you might be able to appoint Graham Potter if you've done 7 or 8 years of work like Brighton did, identifying the right people in the right positions in the front of house, get a scouting network that's able to deliver players that can play a certain system, embed that system through your academy right the way through to the first team. Then appointing Graham Potter might not be crazy. Now, if you just go, here's Manchester United with all the fucking problems that we've got now, what the living fuck do you think Graham Potter is going to do? I'll tell you what he'll do. He will fail harder than Erik Ten Hag has and harder than he failed at Chelsea. Graham Potter's reign at Chelsea is only not the shittest reign at Chelsea because Frank Lampard and his 9% win rate exists. My God. There was, however, a little bit of a... Do you know what? I don't even know if this is a bright spark or not, but the Stoke Sentinel, that's real. That isn't in a comic book. That is a real, well, you know, whatever. It's a real publisher. They had the following headline: Stoke City hopes dashed as Man United line up Graham Potter. Breathe. Manchester United are now going toe-to-toe for a manager with fucking Stoke. All right, then let's talk about Joey Barton. How did this start? Well, it started because, and I actually didn't explain this very well on the podcast. On a podcast on Monday on Vibe with 5, I sort of was replying to Joey's broader point, if he's got a broader point, which he generally doesn't, that you've got to have played the game at the very highest level to be able to talk on it. Unfortunately, the football world doesn't really work like that, because if you look at those who become pundits, it isn't just those who have had good careers. It also happens to be those that are quite charismatic. For the most part, Michael Owen's a bit of an outlier in that. But there are people that are quite charismatic. Now, I would argue that some of those people get the ability or get the job simply because they've got medals and credentials and blah, blah, blah. Which I don't know why Joey's upset because... whatever. The likes of Michael Owen, the likes of Steve McManaman. Steve McManaman's always trotted out because he's played for Real Madrid, he's played for Liverpool, but what has he actually ever said where you thought, fuck me, that was insightful? For me, the very best pundit that works in world football is Danny Higginbottom. Because whenever I watch Danny Higginbottom, I learn something. Because he's got this very eloquent way of explaining things, and he doesn't make you feel stupid for not knowing something, and he explains it in a way that the layperson can understand it, but also gives you a little bit of insight. He's not just the lads need to try harder. I mean, look at some of the people that are involved and some of the shit that they've come out with over the years. There's been some absolute pearlers of one-liners from people who have played the game at the highest level. But in the same way that playing the game at the highest level does not translate to you becoming a manager at the highest level, it doesn't translate to you becoming a pundit at the highest level, because it's an entirely different set of skills. Now, when it comes to TV, and I'm obviously not on TV, so I'm talking about this from someone who's on YouTube, which is, it's kind of TV, but let's be honest, it ain't TV either. There's a way of communicating, and TV is entertainment. They only care about numbers. They only care about what's going to bring eyeballs. There's a reason the likes of Thierry Henry and Rio and Paul Scholes and Ian Wright and Alan Shearer get chosen, because they're some of the biggest stars that this country has created. And people know them. There is a recognition amongst them. And because of that, people want to listen to what they want to say. And like I said, I'll go back to say, I think Danny Higginbottom is a better pundit than all of them. But he's not going to get the recognition because he played for Stoke and he played for Derby and he didn't really win anything. But for me, his punditry is top tier. That is the level everybody else should be looking to get to. And I don't think there's anybody on his level. But he's not going to get the recognition because ultimately the name sells. And there's different jobs in TV. Yes, you might have Rio Pitchside giving his opinion on whatever happened in the Champions League this week, and that's fine. But the job of the presenter, the job of the people that's asking Rio the questions, the job of the people that are asking the players the questions, or Ian Darke didn't play football at the highest level. Clive Tilsley didn't play football at the highest level. But your and my experience of watching football has been greatly enhanced by those people's input into the game. And I didn't put myself in Clive Tilsley's bracket. Like, are you fucking insane? I didn't even mention myself. My entire point was, you don't need to have played the game at the highest level to be involved in football on TV. At no point am I in that. Because guess what, fuckface? I ain't on TV. I've got no desire to be on TV either. Because I can't be asked with someone being in my ear going, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about... Shut up. So the larger point was, I don't think you need to have been involved in professional sport to talk about it. Yes, it's a leg up if you have. But I think there's so many great people. I mean, he's had a bit of a spat with Laura Woods. I think Laura Woods is a fucking top tier presenter. I think she handles the way to present a package and a broadcast in a fucking top way. There is a reason Laura Woods is on everything. So we've seen this dance before. This is the Lawrence Fox, the Tommy Robinson, the Andrew, not Andy, Tate thing of create a right load of controversy, get loads of people talking about you, and then... here's my latest podcast or whatever it is, right? It's tried and tested and people are doing it. And there's clearly someone working with him to do this because it's so flawless, the technique. And yeah, I've bit because he's out here. To be fair, there's no fucking way Joey Barton knows that many different types of potatoes, by the way. And I'm actually fucking entertained by the thought of Joey Barton sitting there Googling different types of fucking potatoes. Anyway. He's meant to be coming on Vibe with Five. He keeps referencing some podcast that he's got coming, which I think is the reason behind this, what looks like a meltdown on social media on a near daily basis, going after different people. He called Jay Motti racist, which go find it, because even if I explain it to you, it don't make sense. He's supposed to be coming on Vibe with Five. All I said to him yesterday was, keep the same energy. You know, you've come with a 10 out of 10 energy, and I don't think you're a 10 out of 10 guy. Keep the same energy when you sat next to me. And from one Newcastle midfielder to, well, one I actually like, in Jermaine Jenas. And the way Newcastle are being talked about, like they're some plucky little underdog who saved all their piggy bank money and now they're at the big boys table, forgetting that they're backed by a literal fucking nation. The way that they're discussed versus the way United are discussed. Like, for those who watched the game last night, as soon as they conceded, the commentary was like, well, they got a lot of injuries, you know. They couldn't, like, they had it, like, fucking queued up, ready to go. Meanwhile, at Manchester United, who've got, like, an entire squad of players missing, you should fucking deal with it better. Anyway, I like Jenas, but here's what Jenas said. I think that moment tells me everything you need to know about this team. They are dreamers. They are chasing big achievements. There was no part of them thinking, let's just hold on for Europa League football. I don't even know if that was on the table, actually, the way it went down. Alan McCoist then goes on. Newcastle probably went out the way their fans would have hoped they would have. What, losing at home? Can you imagine anyone ever saying that? Oh, Manchester United went out the way they wanted to. What do you mean? Losing. They won one game in the group. They literally won one game in the group. Now, I will give you this. Their group was a tougher group than ours. But ultimately, they finished bottom of the group the same way we did. They are below us in the league. Why are Newcastle absolutely fucking popped off compared to Manchester United? Why? And Newcastle have had all these injuries, but up until like 10 days ago, all of those injuries was their bench. There wasn't many of their first, I think maybe one first choice player that was missing. Like, United's was like an entire first fucking 11 that was out. Anyway, bastion of everything intellectual, Gabriel Bonlaho, said, that was the group of death, you know. AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain, tough group, and they give it a good go. They were unlucky. What's luck got to do with it? Alan Brazil. Newcastle, they're dead on their feet. That pressing, that high tempo they played all season. Now they've got the key injuries out. They're down to the bare minimum they can stick on the field. It's caught up with them. They look shattered. So I totally disagree with Jason. It's time for Eddie to move on. Now, as usual, fucking Jason Cundy's just waffling all sorts of macca. He thinks Eddie Howe's got to go. I wouldn't go so far. They have a high energy way of playing. Maybe you can question Eddie Howe in going for the same thing constantly when it isn't working. It's weird you see Eddie Howe praised for losing despite having this high-tempo game. United literally got more shit for our style of play winning games than Newcastle got for actually losing games. This is what doesn't make sense to me. How are you getting more shit for winning than you do for losing? Ultimately, that's what it's about, right? That's what we're all told. Football is a winning and losing game, and if you win, that's good. If you lose, that's bad. But that's not always the case, especially when it comes to Manchester United. Jason Cundy had this to say: Manchester United, hang your heads in shame. Manchester United, you are the Celtic of English football, as he just might as well be Celtic me off. The most goals ever conceded in the Champions League by a Premier League side. Why are Celtic in this fucking paragraph? Fuck you, Cundy. Fuck you. You enjoy Barton, fight me. 15 goals. The joint most worst goals conceded of all the 32 clubs in the group stage this season, joint with Antwerp. What are you trying to say? That we don't fucking know? Guess what? There ain't a single United fan on the planet going, we absolutely rocked everyone's world in the Champions League. We fucking know. We know. It's not been good enough at all. What is the point in this? All I want is you to go, yeah, United was shit. Newcastle was shit as well. Never going to happen, was it?